the marketing stuff
Oh, yeah.
in the beef industry.
Yeah, dude, that is a wild, wild topic.
I feel like a lot of people would be interested in this stuff. And I've tried to learn about it, and it's just like there's so many buzzwords and terms, and it's
so
like,
many.
what does it even mean? Like even this morning, I was like just doing some like research and stuff, and like all the Walmart meat says all natural. Like what does that even mean?
So yeah, let's start with all natural. So all natural, basically what that means is there's no hormones.
Okay.
They have, you can still be vaccinated under all natural, but you cannot be having any antibiotics. So if that steer gets sick or something like that, that has to be cut out of the herd and not because it's got to get given antibiotics. You don't just let it die, right? Like, and then, so that one cannot be categorized as all natural. So antibiotics is in that, and hormones. So they can't be on any sort of growth hormone, or because that's like a popular thing for, say I'm a cattle rancher and I have a crop of calves that I'm trying to sell, but 500 weights are better than 300 weights for market price. So this year, what we're going to do is implant them with hormones and get them to the 500 weight. And so I make more money doing that. And so that's kind of the industry in that. And I feel like you've been seeing a lot in the industry, like that's not the case anymore, that everyone's trying to sort of get away from that to an extent, just because the market's not really wanting that. Right. Yeah. Like I personally we're all natural. So we do everything all natural for all of our beef. So we don't have any sort of growth hormone or antibiotics or anything like that.
It might be different from the poultry industry, but I know in chicken, like you literally can't sell chicken unless it's like you can't sell chicken if it has hormones or antibiotics. So then it's like when they put on no antibiotics, no hormones, it's like it doesn't really mean anything because you couldn't sell it anyways.
Yeah. So
is it the same for beef?
Yeah. Yes and no. So so you see that more in the grade. So let's go back. Like, so we're a USDA processing facility. So what that means is we are the gold standard for health and safety, the way in which our labels are created, the way we have to advertise our products and all that stuff, because we have a USDA inspector in our processing facility watching what we do all day long. So we cannot actually operate without that guy kind of watching, cutting us, dispatching the animals, all the things. So with that comes higher level of sort of regulation, essentially, right? Because obviously we have an inspector there all the time watching what we're doing. So that's huge. That USDA mark allows us to sell beef and all the products that we sell across state lines. So a lot of people are state inspected, and so they would be only allowed to sell in their state and so that's kind of a big difference on everything too. So so because we're USDA, we have to follow the USDA guidelines for labeling and terms and all that stuff. So a popular one you've seen is probably grass-fed.
Oh, yeah.
You see it everywhere now. Yep. Yeah. So grass-fed is bonkers. Like it can be called 100% grass-fed, but that animal, if it was on grass for 50% of its life or longer, can be called 100% grass-fed.
What?
Yeah. It's so insane.
That doesn't...
makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So,
what? Yeah. I mean, who came up with that?
Well, exactly. So like, and we can get into that later, but yeah, the meat industry, the way things have developed over the course of time just is so corrupt and so insane. It blows my mind. But yeah, so that goes into it. It is one of the only products that doesn't have to have its origin on it. So you can,
oh, that's true.
Yeah. So like you, hardly ever see where it's from or anything like that, unless it's processed in the United States, then you're allowed to. Yeah. But if it's imported, it doesn't necessarily have to say product of Canada when on to the consumer package or anything like that, or product.
I know where there's Breeze always talking about like avocado oil. Like if you're trying to find like the best avocado oil, it should be like single origin, like from Mexico or Spain or something. But like if you go to Walmart, look on the shelf or like any grocery store, it's like product of like 8 countries, and it's just like all this random crap like piled together. Do people do that with beef too?
Or 100%. Like when you go to the grocery. So let's talk about mass producing and feeding America, essentially, right? So like when you feed America, they so for just on the other side of the border in Colorado, there's this huge processing facility. Okay, they process around upwards of 60,000 head a week.
Holy
there.
shit.
So when they are turning them into burger, right? It's a product of 60,000 head. So like there's been a bunch of studies out there that they sample the DNA of like a ground beef from the grocery store, and there could be who knows how many different animals within that.
Oh my
Yeah, that one package of ground beef that you're eating. So I don't know. I think you lose a little bit of quality, in my opinion, when you do that. And so, and so that's just kind of wild. The whole beef industry as a whole. And so that's why I really feel like that we make such a difference on everything. Is that we're just kind of we're big enough to where we can produce stuff, but we're small enough to do things like the appropriate and correct way on how it needs to be done.
It's got to be like a fine line of like, you don't want to get too big almost, because then, I mean, there's got to be a way, I would imagine, to maintain the quality and be able to.
Oh, for sure. And so, it's just growing pains for everything, right? Like, so I think we're on a good pace right now. Kind of what we're doing. We maintain the 2 stores fairly okay, and then we also do the online fairly okay. So it's working. So it's just planning for growth is a little bit tough. So the main essentially our competition and everything like that. Not even really our competition. I don't really consider other ranchers or other people like what we're doing competition, because I think it's a positive thing for the industry. It's way better getting some beef from a local rancher or something like that comparatively to going to Sam's Club or any of the mass chains or anything like that. So I don't necessarily see it as competition, because there's plenty to go around. But where I see we own our processing facility, so that is a huge advantage for us. So for example, if you weren't doing that, the business model would be you produce all these cattle, and now you're hoping that the processing facility, you have scheduled slots for them, and now you have to manage the inventory and go and pick it up, and it just adds a couple more layers to that. So, which helps control our pricing a little bit, because we control that whole process right there. So yeah,
that's awesome. Going back to like the grass-fed stuff, because it's just everywhere. So 100% grass-fed could be 50% of its life. Is only 50% is grass-fed.
And not necessarily even on grass that grows from the ground, grass that is fed to them in like a feedlot or something like that too. Yeah.
So, because I'm guessing that's different from like pasture-raised.
Yeah. So pasture-raised sounds exactly what that would be. It's in the pasture-raised. So then, if you really want 100% grass-fed products, what you need to be looking for is grass-fed and finished. When it says that on the label, what that means is through the finishing period of the animal's growing time, it was given grass of some sorts, whether it's from the ground, from a silage of some kind, and depending on the blends of all that, that's what you're trying to look for. And that's the stuff that really, like, for example, like the fitness community, as you may know, really digs the grass finished stuff.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with like the carotenes in the grass and the way that it metabolizes in the fat and all that stuff. So when you look at grass finished products, they are a lot more yellow looking. So, or even like wild game, for example, people are more familiar with like bison and things like that. You can buy that at the grocery store. So typically all those are 100% grass fed and finished. And so the way the carotenes metabolize in the fat will tint it yellow comparatively to a grain finished product will tint it more of like a white color.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I mean, and I'm guessing a cow like naturally doesn't want to eat a bunch of grain and like shit. It's like it's naturally going to go out in a pasture and eat grass.
Sure.
It's like the more organic, natural thing for it to do.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's more natural than another thing, because I really am pro grain too.
Really?
Yeah. I think it depends on your intention, just like anything, right? Like, so when you have a grain finished beef, for example, when you eat a Wagyu, let's talk about that. When you eat Wagyu, and that experience that you're trying to do with a Wagyu is way different than when you have a grass-fed and finished ribeye, right? The things aren't the same. It's a different product altogether. And so we do both. We do grain finished and grass finished. And another thing with like the grain finish, I think it gets a bad rap that it's like just feeding them just corn dumped in thing.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the case. Like, it is a silage blend, meaning we take hay, you ferment it, so it's easier for the animal to break down and everything like that from these natural, from like a cutting of hay or alfalfa or something like that. Incorporate your grain supply, whether it's it could be a wide array of whatever materials are around. So like distillers grains are popular, like byproducts from brewing beer and brewing alcohol and things like that. Incorporating that to essentially give them a higher protein and a higher caloric intake on that is really what makes the grain finish. And it does get a bad rap for, in my opinion. I'm not actually sure why. Interesting. But I think it has to do with because people think that grass finished is so much a healthier product that the grain finish can't be a healthier product. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I think it would be just the grass finished is a better product for what you're trying to achieve.
Interesting. Yeah. So maybe it's more of would be like more of a nutrient thing then, like higher quality like vitamins and minerals or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it just has to do with the association of a feedlot as well. You know, and then also hot words like monocrop agriculture and things like that. So when all these kind of negative associated things in the culture right now are. And I'm not saying that those are great things by any means, but it's just hot words, right? And then you take an association of the one thing into the other, and then that's kind of where it turns into a negative aspect. Okay. And of course, like like people can't digest grain as well, and the cattle, according to what those steaks look like and how they're metabolizing fat and our ribeyes, fat's your friend. Fat's flavor. Even in the grass finished, fat is flavor, and like the Wagyu. So the reason why Wagyu is popular too is, like I was talking about, the omega-3s. So going back to the meat industry and like the whole and the hot words and stuff like that. So omega-3s are popular in salmon, right? That's why people eat them. So I can't remember the actual number, but a Wagyu omega-3 comparatively to a normal beef omega-3 is like 300 times more. Oh, whoa. But that omega-3 for your daily caloric or daily need comparatively to a salmon is like 2,000 times less than what you actually need. So that just goes to show it's the way that the meat industry is marketing everything in order to, sell it essentially. It's just like anything. I think intention behind why you're buying a product is way more important than comparing what you're trying one to another. I think that's a better way to say that, because the grain finish is flavor, and when you're cooking and it's delicious, grass finish isn't going to taste the same, and it's and it serves more of a purpose on like health and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it seems like the biggest factor is just like, where's the meat coming from?
100%.
More than like what it's actually consuming. Yeah,
like to me, that's a huge thing. It's like, how's the animal living its life? Yeah. Is it outside? Does it have basic needs of water? And so like even feedlots, for example, they get a bad rap. And
how do you describe a feedlot?
So let's describe the feedlots that I use, because we finish in feedlots. We live in Wyoming. We do not have the capability of letting the animals graze all year round, so we have to put them in feedlots. So feedlots, in my opinion, are the ones that we have are huge. They're these big pins essentially, and there is a trough that they put whatever blend of silage into the truck, and it blends it up and shoots it out in a trough, and for them to feed. So it's not like the steers are going and just like forcing them to eat it. They just eat it. And then a lot of our pins, specifically in our Wheatland location, have it's a field too. So it's that lot's where the feed trough is, but then they can open it up into a field. Gets a little dicier when the snow's way more thick, right? Yeah. Especially in Wheatland, it gets crazy there. But and then so we keep anywhere from like 30 to 60 per pin, and then we just it takes an army in order. A lot of people are kind of, in my opinion, don't quite understand where their food comes from. Yeah. And I think that's like the main thing that we're talking about, right? And like the main problem with intentionality is you just need to know where your food comes from. I feel like that is people are so far removed from that is kind of essentially associating some of these negative connotations for some of these things like we were talking about.